We are live. Welcome back, folks. This is part 3 of the LFA Virtual P.A.R, in particular Elizabeth City State University Drone Experience Academy. I got the pleasure today of having Mr. Tymell Williams join us. He is a Middle Georgia State University student pilot and a Part 107 drone operator and videographer. Super excited to hear what you have to share with us today. So without further ado, I'll let you take it away.
Hey everyone, thank you. Before I start with my introduction, I want to just say thank you to Legacy Flight Academy as well as Elizabeth City University. I really appreciate the opportunity to get out and share my perspective and where I'm at and where I'm going, and get everybody educated, hopefully on drones and aviation, as well as collegiate aviation and focused. So like you said, my name is Tymell Williams. I'm originally from New York, currently living in Georgia. Been down here for the past 7 years or so. Currently, I am a student at Middle Georgia State University. We are Georgia's only public 4-year aviation university where you can come and learn to fly and get college credit for it, in essence. I'm also a private pilot. I'm getting all of my ratings with Middle Georgia. Excuse me, working on my instrument rating. Outside of that, I am a Part 107 drone operator. Well, the legal term is Small Unmanned Aerial Systems certificate holder, but we just call it Part 107 drone operator. That's the code of federal regulations that it operates under. I'm also a aspiring videographer. My thing with wanting to do that was just being able to document my journey and show people what it's like in aviation, the things that you can do with drones, the things that you can do with airplanes, build bonds and bridge gaps in between different communities. So before I talk about how to get licensed and everything like that, I wanted to speak about the virtual P.A.R series. I've noticed that some people have done it differently. I wanted to be a little bit more hands-on today, so I actually bought my drone, and I wanted to kind of just show you guys what it's like, how to use it, what you can expect from one. So I have a DJI Mavic Pro. It is a small unmanned aerial system, and my choice with wanting to go with this particular drone was I like the portability of it, just being able to fold it up, pick it up, take it somewhere, put it in a backpack, and things like that. When you look at unmanned aerial systems and drones in particular, some of them, they range very, very greatly in size and what they can and can't do. So like I said, small quadcopter drone. I'll break down what it is and the things that it does. So here's the camera. These two sensors right here are obstacle facing sensors, as well as underneath we have 2 obstacle facing sensors. Like I said, this is a quadcopter, so it folds down. Propellers on each leg. They unfold and you power the drone on, and you get what you get out of it. The drone itself is typically controlled by this remote, and I'll get into that as well. So typically what happens is you power on the remote and it gets connected to your phone via this USB cable, and it automatically opens up an associated app with it. So once I power the drone on, as you can see me doing, hopefully we can get this in focus for you guys. The drone starts up, it does its calibration and testing, and it connects to the camera. And you in turn see everything pretty much real time on the screen, the same as what the drone sees. So just powering that off and looking, Wanted to talk more about what this particular drone does, some specs of it. Like I said, this is the DJI Mavic Pro. A little bit of an older drone, still very capable, and it'll have a range typically of about 3 to 4 miles, pending different like reception and things like that. It does go pretty high, but typically, sorry, see, so it's updating. So typically, I stay below 400 feet AGL. That's a part of the rules of being a Part 107 drone operator. It's very smart, I would say. So it will hover and do everything on its own. It will have a top speed of right around 40 miles per hour. But there's definitely a lot more information on that. So I wanted to talk to you guys about pretty much what it is, how to get involved with it. So the first thing would start with licensing. With that, there are two different paths to licensing with drones. The first part, and I kind of call it a cheat, is for the people who are already airmen and hold a manned aircraft certificate, such as like a private pilot or a commercial pilot, airline pilot. We generally have a caveat of being able to take an online course and do an associated test, upload a certificate, and we are at that point licensed drone operators. We just wait for our certificate to come in the mail, purchase a drone. If you do not have an airman certificate for a manned aircraft, what you'll need to do is take an associated written test that will test you based on your knowledge of the Part 107 operations, things that you can do, can't do, some safety aspects of it. Once you pass that written exam, just like that, you are a licensed drone operator. So what can you do with a drone? Typically on the civilian side, I mean, obviously there are some things that you can do military-wise, but typically on the civilian side, it will focus around aerial photography and videography. And I was hoping to share just a couple of short clips with you guys. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen of some videos, both that I have done as well as a colleague of mine. So if you give me just 1 second, I'll share that screen. Share. Okay, let's see. And I hope this is sharing. So here's a video that I did. This was probably my second day with the drone, second or third day, and I just wanted to explore the airport, basically, of course, abiding by any federal regulations. So without further ado, here's a video. And I'll minimize that. Hopefully you guys can still see me. So like I said, that's one of the ones that I did in probably my first or second day with the drone, just being able to get out where I was at and capture the views. And that's one of the good things about drones, especially if you are one of those people who don't really like being high in the sky yourself, but you wanted to be able to capture those views. And I'll show you something a little more professional, one that a colleague of mine did, and it really shows how the quality can change and what you can expect, how you can basically get better and, you know, make something that's worth being paid for and things like that, as well as just having a good time with your friends. This particular video was from flying into Tuskegee, very historic place, Molten Field, and we just had a good time, but we were able to document that as well. So I'll go ahead and show you guys that video. All right, so we'll go ahead and maximize this and get rid of the screen sharing. Give me just a second. Yeah, so back to that, like I was saying, that was just a couple of different ways that you can look and see what the finished product is of having a drone, and use that to kind of create a picture to make money and build your resume, your portfolio as an aerial photographer. So the biggest question that I get with drones from some of my friends is, can you make money and how do you make money? On the civilian side, I want to say that it's a lot of self-preparation and hustle. So the way you make money with drones is you build your portfolio, exactly what I'm doing now. You know, you go out, take pictures, take videos, and, you know, just build a portfolio of both still photography as well as video photography, aerial, on the ground, and you start to distribute that content to people into the different types of operations that you want to get into. So the different types of operations will range from the biggest and most saturated one, I would say, is commercial real estate. And that would be like just going out to these real estate companies and people who are in the real estate environment saying, hey, I can take pictures of this house, that house. You know, I'm an aerial photographer. I can get there for you. I charge X amount per hour. And then you build a relationship with that particular vendor. Outside of commercial real estate, you have commercial construction. So we like to call that site survey and things like that. And that's just getting out to a construction site. We see them all the time, all over our neighborhoods. People actually have a great need to see what things look like from the air, and get that documented. Let me see. All right, just making sure we don't have any questions. So you have commercial real estate, you have site survey, you have thermal imaging. This particular drone does not have a thermal imaging camera, but there is an attachment that you could buy. It would just, in essence, give you another remote control, basically, and you would go out, take the pictures with the camera on the drone, as you can see, and then the thermal imaging camera would be on the bottom. You would take pictures with that as well. That opens up a ton of possibilities, just being able to do thermal imaging. So with these different types of ops, you have different ways that you can go about it. There are platforms that you could join. I'm actually a member of a couple of them. I get emails generally like every other day of, hey, we have this job in this area. We want 25 photos, 2 videos, aerial, top down, and, you know, you come back and that's it. The job will pay. Every job is different, but some will range at like $75 to $100 an hour. Some of them are $140 an hour. Typically, the jobs won't take you but 20 to 30 minutes, but you're still getting paid for your time. So there's platforms, and then there's you yourself, like I said, that self preparation and hustle. You yourself just being able to say, all right, this is my business. This is what I'm going to do full time. I'm going to get out there, put the word out. I'm going to take photos. I'm going to take videos. I'm going to edit them and, get that content out so everyone knows when they need someone to do aerial photography, I'm that guy. So like I said, self preparation, hustle, and you can generally look and see an instant result because once you put yourself out there, people will want it. It's just a part of the game. Give me just 1 second. So we got one question. Let's see if I tell. Yes. Here's the question. Let's see. I guess I answer live. So this is a great question. The question is, if I tell people or me, the drone operator, not to fly the drone over the house, do I have to comply with that? Yes, 100%. I have to comply with that within certain reason. We can't, as drone operators, be out there invading people's privacy, and that's one of the things that I like to tell people is that yes, you have this drone. It's very capable. But with great power comes great responsibility. So you have to make that call to yourself to say, is this right and is it legal? So yes, we do have to stop within a certain extent. We can't just be flying over people's houses recklessly and things like that. Hopefully that answered that question. Okay.
Hey, Tymell, I got a question for you.
Go for it.
So I know in the world of manned aviation, you need a commercial license to do things to make money. With the Part 107, is that required to have your own business to make money, or do you not need that say Part 107? I know there's certain things that you need it for, but what does, I guess, as a business aspect, what does the Part 107 buy you?
Yeah, so in order to use your drone for any commercial purposes, technically you do need a Part 107 license. And it's almost one of those things that people either don't understand or look at and say, well, I'm flying my drone, why do I need to get a commercial license? But technically, if you're going to be using your drone for compensation or hire, you need a Part 107 license because there are certain things that can happen. Like I'll give an example. Let's say I'm out flying, just shooting my friends, and they say that they're going to pay me. I'm not doing it for any business or any association. Just a friend that says they're going to pay me. I'm out there flying and recording, and I crash my drone into someone's car somehow. Just giving a random example. That would be one of those things where I'm held liably responsible under the Part 107 rules and regulations. So as simple as that, you need it, even up to just, taking a video and putting it on YouTube. If it's an operation that you're going to get paid for commercially, you need a Part 107 license, as well as a registration. Now, there are people who do use their drones for hobbies, and I know there's a very fine line between someone saying, "Oh, I'm just a hobbyist and I'm using it for Part 107 commercial operations." But there is a difference, and you need, as a responsible adult, you should be holding yourself to that standard to operate accordingly. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, that was good.
All right. So how I got into drones, I wanted to talk about that. I had this big passion for aviation all throughout my life. I put that aside for a small portion of the time, but I want to say somewhere around 2011, 2012, we started to see, drones really start to come to the civilian world. And I always thought it was just cool. I never had actually seen one in person, but just to be able to hear someone say, "Oh, my friend has a drone and he sends it X amount of time away." And in New York, everything is, pretty much close together. So a mile away, was a big distance to me. But that was where it kind of sparked. And I didn't actually get into it until my time recently at Middle Georgia State. Obviously we're doing reduced operations, and we were doing no flying at one point, but we were doing, like I said, the FAA wing safety courses. And I came across a course that showed me that, hey, if you have your manned pilot certificate, it's that much easier for you to get your drone pilot certificate. And I always urge people to do it because you've already put the time in to become a private pilot, instrument rated private pilot, commercial pilot, airline pilot. I always say, why not have another certificate to add to your resume? Whether you decide to go out and use it or not, that's on you. But it's definitely something good to have, in my experience. I will say that, once I saw it and realized that it was something that I wanted to do, and I'm kind of leading into what they cost, because a lot of people always ask me what they cost. So as I started to look into it, I realized that they range so dramatically in price. So I've seen little drones that cost $100, and then when you get to these premier names like Unique and GoPro and DJI, they make some of the more qualified drones, I would say smart drones, so to say, that can do a lot more things than the typical drone that you would see at Walmart or Best Buy or something like that. I started to realize that they range dramatically in price from $300 or $400 up to $1,600 to $2,000 for even just the type of drone that I have. So I realized that, I wanted to do it, but I had to get some help. So I reached out to some family members, and, they realized that, hey, he's doing what he has to do. This is also something that could help him, further his aviation career, as I can use it to make money. I told them, hey, I already got the Part 107 license. And, my parents, they chipped in, and they made it happen for me. So I got my first drone. Talking price of what they cost, like I said, anywhere between $400 and $2,000. The particular drone that I have, they don't actually make new anymore. They make a new version of it. I have the Mavic Pro. They make the Mavic Pro 2, as well as a whole series in the Mavic line. The drone that I have, you can typically find for anywhere between $500 and $1,000 used, depending on what's coming with it, and that's typically extra batteries, filters to be able to get the lighting better on the camera, different accessories like stands to help your landing and everything like that. Let me see, we got another question here. How long is the license valid for? Let's see. So your initial Part 107 license is valid for 2 years, after which you'll do a recurrent test. So for us, we don't have that initial test fee associated with it. It's just do the online course. But excuse me, for the people who don't have manned pilot certificates, you would do this, you would do the written test, pay the $160, I believe it is, to administer that test to the from the FAA, and it's good for 2 years. After which you come back and take the recurrent test, the same thing that we, in essence, had to take the first time. So that will answer that question. It's good for 2 years. Let's see, what else did I want to talk about? So I wanted to also talk about some supporting material. As you look at aerial photography and aerial survey and things like that, it's a great tool to have, but there's still some times and instances as a photographer and videographer that you're going to need some ground equipment. So typically what I use is a GoPro. I don't have the fanciest GoPro, but they do work very well. I would say all their models work very well, but I use that for some of my ground and still photos, as well as some of my aviation videos inside the airplane. I was actually blessed to be able to take my mom flying not too long ago, and just to be able to record that was a blessing in itself. So before we move into something else, do we have any more questions on drones? We're not done with it by any means, but do we have any more questions on drones out there?
I think you're good to press, brother.
All right. So outside of drones, like I said, I'm a student at Middle Georgia State University. I am pursuing a Bachelor's of Science in Aviation Science and Management, and I have a concentration in advanced fixed wing flight. So what that really means is that I'll come in, do my 4-year program, I will receive college credits to learn how to fly the airplane, and I think that's amazing in itself, but I receive college credits to learn how to fly the airplane. The concentration in advanced wing flight will separate me from some of the possible candidates for airline jobs, agricultural crop dusting jobs and things like that, because it shows that I received some type of structured learning. Not to say that, you couldn't do it outside of a college, but it shows that I received some type of structured learning, and that tends to hold over well with people. So when I finish this program, I'll be what's called a certified flight instructor, instrument, and commercial multi-engine pilot. Outside of that, because we are a collegiate program endorsed by the FAA, we have certain allowances that are given to us that I really love, basically. And those allowances tend to be a reduction in the amount of hours that it takes to become certificated. So as we look at, private pilot, the legal requirement to become a private pilot is 40 hours of flight time, as well as some other testing and subcategories. For us, we can get it in 35, as well as the instrument rating, same thing, we can get it in 35. But the icing on the cake for me is when you start to talk about the airline pilot side, typically, or not typically, by regulation, in order to be an airline pilot or hold an airline transport pilot certificate, you need to have 1,500 hours of flight time in a powered aircraft, as well as a commercial pilot certificate. And if you're going to fly for the airlines, you would need a commercial multi-engine land certificate. For us, being a collegiate program, that drops us from 1,500 to 1,000. And I know we're doing legacy flights, so I definitely got to shout out the military, because if you do a military flight program, that will bring you down from either 1,000 or that 1,500 to 750 hours of flight time. So those are some things to definitely consider. So that the biggest thing that I loved was the reduction in hours. So if I wanted to speak more about my life as a college student, I would say that it has definitely been a daunting process, so to say, in between balancing school and work and flying. Even though I'm receiving my college credit to fly, it's still a lot of reading that has to go with flight in itself, separate from your core stuff, as well as your electives and your requirements for your major. So I would say that it's a very daunting process, but worth it in the end. And you start to receive the recognition of how much or how worth it is once you start to pass these classes and maintain a good GPA and get these pilot certificates. That's all the satisfaction that I need. So what I would say is every collegiate aviation program is a little different. So definitely look at how they structure their program. If you are interested in going the civilian route, look at how they structure their program, how it will affect your classes. Do you receive that reduction in hours from 1,500 to 1,000 if you're looking at being an airline pilot? Because not every program will operate with that same endorsement from the FAA. So that's some things to look at. For myself, looking at life after Middle Georgia, like I said, when I finish, I'll have a certified flight instructor instrument, as well as a commercial multi-engine land. When I finish, I'll have somewhere around like 250 hours. Um, Obviously, that's a big gap in between 250 and 1,000 to become an airline pilot. So what I'll end up doing after I finish Middle Georgia is becoming a flight instructor either at my school or outside of my school. um, and just building that time. One of the good things about being a flight instructor is that you end up getting paid to teach people. Not everybody wants to be a teacher, but you end up being paid to teach people. So if you were a private pilot student and wanted to, become an airline pilot, every hour that you had to fly to meet that requirement, if I was the person teaching you, I also get credit for those hours. So that's in a nutshell what it's like for me at Middle Georgia State University, what it's like to be in collegiate aviation, some of the benefits that we have. um, I would say that it's not for everybody, but it is definitely a good place to be. Um, and I strongly encourage anyone to further their education, whether it be college, trade school, a local flight school, or any combination of those three, or even outside of that. So that about sums it up for me, and how I got into drones, what it cost me, what life is like as a college student. Hopefully, I answered some of you guys' questions, and if I didn't, please feel free to ask. I'm here, for as long as you guys need me.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that. My question, and maybe you kind of alluded to it, and it seems like you're getting your education pretty broad aviation. Is there a ultimate end goal for you, or you want to mix some Part 107 stuff in your future, or is it airline pilot? What are you looking for in the future?
Yeah, so my goal particularly is to becoming an airline pilot, and I like that you're curious about the Part 107 stuff, because I think that's the beauty of it, being that you don't have to make it a full-time thing. If you wanted to, like I said, I receive emails probably every other day. Hey, this job is in your area. This job is in your area, and obviously you have to bid for it and show that your work is what the vendor should be taking. But the beauty about it is that you don't have to bid for it. There's no one standing over you looking at and saying, hey, you have to take this drone job. But it speaks to your drive and your determination of how much you're going to pursue and, getting out there and doing it. So I want to be an airline pilot, hopefully fly for the airlines. I know we're going through some things economically, but I have the utmost faith and confidence that it will pick back up. Aviation has highs and lows. That's just the nature of the game. But like I said, you don't have to do it full time, but just being able to have that certificate and have the ability to do it. And like I said, I like the DJI Mavic Pro because it has that portability to it. If I wanted to, let's say I was an actual airline pilot and I was on a trip somewhere overseas or in another state, if I wanted to take out my drone and just solicit some work and say, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I charge X amount per hour, that's a possibility because I have that drone with me and I have the certificate to be able to do it commercially without worrying about if I'm breaking any rules, and about being safe as well. Did that answer your question, Ben?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, I see we got two questions. All right, so the first question is, do you have a recommendation for, do I have a drone recommendation for someone starting out? I mean, I'm a little biased because I do have a DJI drone, but there are, many very capable drones out there. I do like the Mavic series, and the reason why I like the Mavic series and why I would recommend it is because, like I said, it's compact. You can fold it up, put it in the bag, take it wherever generally wherever you want to go. And the quality is amazing. So it'll shoot 4K videos in 30 frames per second, as well as take, that one actually does only 12 megapixels, but the Mavic Pro 2 does 20 megapixels. Like I said, price-wise, the Mavic 2 Pro is like 1,600. Just providing you get the drone, the remote, the controller. But it's always nice to just be able to have that ability to pack it up and go somewhere and not have to worry. So I would recommend the Mavic series, or at least to take a look at the Mavic series. If you are not trying to make this your everything, but still have the capability of producing good work, I would say that the Mavic Pro series. But if you are looking to get into really in-depth drone operation, I would look at things like the GoPro. GoPro has a drone. GoPro has a drone, as well as a brand called Unique. They have a good variety of drones, and they do just as much or more as the DJI stuff. So it's really all on what you are looking for. So you want to pick a drone that suits your mission. If you're looking for something simple, I would say the DJI Mavic series. If you're looking to go in depth, I would look at some bigger, more capable drones. Hopefully that answered that question. Got another question from Chad. What's the best way to learn to fly drones? Are you self-taught, or are there classes that will help you speed up your learning with flying drones? So to answer that question, I would say that the best way to learn to fly drones, obviously safety is a big factor. So some things that I look at when I get my drone ready to go fly is a pre-flight. Obviously, as pilots, we're used to pre-flighting our airplanes and making sure that everything is the way it should be. Believe it or not, this is an aircraft, and it is subject to some of the same tendencies that airplanes are subject to. So I want to make sure that my propellers are good. I want to make sure that my sensors are not cracked or anything like that. Because let's say I was just a lazy drone pilot and I decided to get out there, just fly it whenever, and my propeller had a crack, there's a chance that I could end up stalling the drone, and you don't want to see your $1,000 drone come falling out of the sky somewhere, especially if you're not around it. So I would say the first thing about learning to fly drones is safety. Pick a good wide open area. I myself, initially I'm self-taught, but I do like to reach out to other drone operators, and I'm learning so much from them as it is. Just if you look at the difference in quality in between those two videos that I showed, the second video that's from a colleague of mine is very calm still. It keeps everything in the frame. So I'm always learning, but I am initially self-taught. I would say that there are courses that will help you learn to fly drones, and I wouldn't say that they're a waste of money, because who's to say that that person doesn't know something that you that could benefit you. You always want to put yourself in a position to get as much knowledge as possible, especially from people who've been in the industry that you're looking to get into. And I think the last part of that question was, will the classes speed up the learning with the drones? I would say that the speed to which you learn how to fly drones and how to operate commercially within different situations is based on how much you put in it. So, to give an example, they could teach you, the left, the right, the up, the down in some of these classes, but if you just take that information and let it move to the back of your mind and only fly your drone, one time a week or one time a month, you don't really have that drive going to just be able to explore and learn new things. So I would say the speed of the learning process comes down to how much you are willing to put into it. All right. Question from Ashley: how do you balance everything you have going on? School, work, personal relationships. Is your girlfriend supportive? Yes, my girlfriend is supportive. I do have. As a college student, and this is something I can say to you guys. Sorry, let me hit answer. So as a college student, like I said, it can be very daunting. You know, you have deadlines, you have flying lessons scheduled, you have to read all this material. So there does come a point where you have to recognize, you know, when to take a step back and balance everything. But, you know, if you want something, you have to focus on getting it. So it does become a balance of personal life, education life, and, you know, extracurricular activities. All right, that's all of those questions. Anybody else have any other questions? I'm definitely open to answering just about anything that I can. Um, as a on a side note, just to, you know, I guess leave you guys with some wisdom, I would say don't be afraid to reach out to other people who are in your field or even people outside your field. So you know, some of the people that I've met with Legacy Flight Academy have been with volunteering opportunities in different social organizations, and these people are well above the level that I am. But I know they had to start, you know, at where I'm at. So I reach out to these people and ask them, hey, do you have any pointers for this? How did you learn this? So don't be afraid to reach out to somebody and get help, because they likely started exactly where you are. Um, you know, and it just takes a different perspective sometimes. Hearing it from someone else, you know, can definitely be that the difference in you understanding something and not understanding it. I know sometimes, even myself, to people who are looking at me and say, oh, he already has his private pilot license. He's working on his instrument rating. He's going to be an airline pilot. Even some of us, you know, we may seem like we're unapproachable or anything like that, but I can promise you, 9 times out of 10, if you just stop somebody and ask them a question, uh, they probably would be excited to answer it for you. Um, Anonymous question: Who are the some? I'm sorry. Who are some of the people that keep you focused and motivated to keep you going and get better? Um, I look at people that have done it before me. So, ironically, I look a lot at female aviation because they, like myself, are facing certain stigmas involved in becoming a pilot. But they also have the stigma of becoming a woman pilot. So I look at them and I see their drive and their motivation. I'm like, I can do this too. So I look at some of the people like Andrea Lewis. I look at the first black female Thunderbird, Rimoshe. I look at people like Captain Stephanie Johnson, you know, Delta Airlines' first black female captain. So people like that, they definitely keep me motivated. And I've reached out to some of these people as well, just to, back up what I'm saying, practice what you preach. I've reached out to some of these people and asked like, hey, what did you do? Or can I pick your brain for a little bit? And, they are almost always welcoming. And sometimes there's a time constraint. If I can say that nobody's ever ignored my message. If they have gotten off course or had to do something, they were definitely welcoming and got back to me at their earliest convenience. Outside of that, I look at my current situation and what I've gone through in life, and the people before me, what they've gone through in life. I look at that as motivation as well. Just wanting to live a better life and make a better life for the people that come after me as well. I think one of the big things in a student, someone like yourself, deciding what to do after high school is having the availability of resources. So when I finished high school, just about 10 years ago, actually a little more than 10 years ago. So when I finished high school, I did take a gap year. I went to a technical school to learn how to work on cars. But in my senior year, I realized that I didn't have the resources to actually get that information. I felt like college was out of reach, so to say. I didn't know that I could get scholarships, and I didn't you hear it, but you don't realize how close to home it hits. So I didn't know I could get scholarships. I didn't know I could get financial aid. I didn't know that there were people and businesses sponsoring you to actually help you achieve your goals. So when I look at things like that, I want to make sure that the next generation understands that they have mentorship from us, they have companionship from us, they have resources from us, whether it be financial via social organizations, financial via military, obviously because your training is paid for with the military, and you in turn return that service to your country. But just things like that, that motivates me. When I look and see that I can make a difference in you guys' lives, it helps me keep going forward. So hopefully I didn't beat a dead horse with that, but I'm very passionate about that kind of stuff. That's why I took a little bit more time on that.
I got just a couple comments from Facebook there. Mr. Gooden, obviously on behalf of Elizabeth City State University, thank you for your presentation. Definitely motivating. And he says, when you complete your CFI, please consider Elizabeth City State University. I'm sure they'd love to have you as an instructor. And then for Mr. Travers, obviously great presentation. He likes your plan. Get the degree, stay the course, and fair winds. So definitely a lot of support from both sides. And your presentation I think was spot on. So many things ring true to the people that are listening.
Definitely, Elizabeth City State University. I'm honored to have been given the chance. In the midst of everything, being a college student, just being able to reach back and give kind of like the real time feedback of this is what I have, this is what I'm going through, this is where I intend to be. I'm glad that you guys gave me the opportunity to tell kids and tell the next generation what they can expect. Some different, hopefully I created some interest in a different industry that they could pursue, because the aerial photography industry is really booming. I know people who make a lot of money just going out and flying a drone for 30-40 minutes to an hour. Let's see, got an anonymous question. Excuse me, would you say that you need to have a good group of like-minded friends to be able to make it through this process? That is a great question, so I'll repeat it as I gather my thoughts. Would you say that you need to have a good group of like-minded friends to be able to make it through this process? That's a two-part answer, I would say. When you look at where you're going in life, and when you look at what you're doing, no one can do it for you. So you have to be able to have that drive, have that focus and determination, and keep pushing forward. I know it gets hard, because it's hard for me. I've had to stop my private pilot training like 2 or 3 times, just running out of money. But when you look at your goals and you decide to do something, you have to be the person that is responsible for it and continues to push forward. Contrary, or on the other side of that, I would say I learned from, I want to say it was a video from Tyrese, and he quoted Will Smith or something like that. And I find that this statement holds true. If you want to know where you're going, look at the 5 closest people around you. And this isn't intended to demean anybody, but if you have 5 people around you or 4 people around you who are not doing what you're doing, or even just progressing towards their own goals, you will likely become that 5th person. But on the other hand, if you have 5 or 4 people who are constantly pursuing their goals, even if it's something different than your own, if you just have motivated, like-minded people around you, you will likely be that 5th person, and you guys can share in that experience of becoming successful together. So hopefully that answers your question. There's 2 parts to it. You have to be the change that you want to see, as well as it's always good to have good company around you. any more questions, I'm definitely here to answer them. And I hope I've, been able to help inspire some people or open up some dialogue or some interest within, your own self to be able to see something different and have an alternate means of just pursuing happiness as well as pursuing a career. So hopefully I was able to do that for you guys.
Without a doubt think that you have definitely done that here today. We'll give it another minute or two, and then we'll start wrapping this particular PAR event up. But dude, I can just speak for myself and perhaps a few others that I definitely learned a lot more. I didn't know much about Part 107 or drones. Always something I've been interested in, but finding the time to pursue those things has been tough. So I definitely learned a lot. I'm definitely going to go do a little bit more research myself on it. Just as curious as somebody already has a certificate. It seems easier now than it was before. But for those of you that are on Facebook and perhaps even in this Zoom webinar, so want to thank you, Tymell, for taking the time out today. Want to thank Elizabeth City State University for hopping on and supporting us as well. Hopefully they got some good information out of it. For those that don't know, LFA Legacy Flight Academy, 3-tier approach. We've got our PAR events, and this is the virtual series of that due to recent events. We've got our Eyes Above the Horizon program where we fly kids, all 100% free, and our Double Victory Flight program, which we usually do in the summer, which we can't do this summer due to current events. And all of that is 100% free for the participants, the kids, and we can't do that without donations and support from people like Tymell or yourselves. So our website, legacyflightacademy.org, is definitely a place that you want to visit to help, whether you want to volunteer, share your funds. This is part 3. Part 4 is tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern as well. We got Mr. Anson Jones will be joining us. And then this weekend, Legacy Flight Across America, which will be huge, where we're doing discovery flights, if you will, at up to 5 states, I believe, across the country. We'll be live streaming as well. You can catch it here on the Zoom or the webinar as well. So before we wrap up, looks like we have one more question here, and I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, so we have the question is, any organizations or scholarships that you recommend? I will say there are definitely quite a few that I recommend. Primarily, what you're looking at right now, as someone who is new to the Legacy Flight Academy environment, and even though I know a good amount of the people who are involved in it, I would say that I'm new to it. And I was blown away to know that, they're giving free discovery flights. They're helping people achieve this introduction and furtherance of aviation education. So definitely Legacy Flight Academy. I would say OBAP. I am very strong in the OBAP community, organization of Black aerospace professionals. They have scholarships twice a year. You would typically just apply. If you find one that you meet the criteria for. Women in aviation, even if you're a man, I would say definitely look at women in aviation. NGPA, National Gay Pilots Association, they also have scholarships. I recommend all of these. I recommend that you get involved with all of the organizations that you can, because you just never know what's going on, and you might meet someone who can help you, and then you can in turn help someone else. So I would also recommend doing a Google search for different scholarships. Look into your place of employment. I was actually just blessed to receive one of the scholarships from my employer. Delta gave me a $2,500 scholarship. There's nothing wrong with needing help, but you got to be able to put the work in and do the essays and do the video interviews and things like that. So I would say definitely look at those organizations: OBAP, Women in Aviation, NGPA, National Gay Pilots Association. There's so many out there. I want to be a pilot. How do I go about doing that? Let's go ahead and answer. So the first thing I could say about wanting to become a pilot is look again, you got Legacy Flight Academy. The typical first step for most people want to become a pilot is doing a discovery flight. And in that discovery flight, you'll go up with a flight instructor. They'll give you some instruction on the ground and teach you some things about the airplane. And when you go up, they'll let you fly it left and right, up and down, and you'll decide like, hey, this is something I can do, or something that I want to pass on. But if you decide that, hey, this is something that I want to do, any local airport generally will have a flight school. Well, most of them, I don't want to say any, but most of them will generally have a flight school where you can go to get those first initial certificates. Collegiate aviation, as I spoke on, I'm big in collegiate aviation. And then the military. The military is probably one of the best kept secrets as far as being able to do your flight training. I can't even say affordably because it's free. Anything in life is a compromise. So you end up repaying for that flight training with your years of service. But who wouldn't want to serve their country? So, I would say look into the local flight schools from a local airport. Look into collegiate aviation. They have different programs that help you become a pilot, as well as the military. And the way you can get started with any of that is to start a discovery flight. Typically, a discovery flight will, outside of Legacy, will range probably $80 to $150. You'll go up for 30 minutes to an hour or something like that. And like I said, you get to control the airplane and learn if it's for you or not. But definitely look into you can't be free. So definitely look into these discovery flights that Legacy Flight Academy has going on. I mean, I'm mind blown by it. Hopefully got to answer those questions.
Yeah, good stuff, man. It's definitely true. For those wondering about this Legacy Flight Across America, this is our first one. We hope to do many more after that, and as we go down that road, looking for more avenues to fly, more and more kids for discovery flights. So obviously this Saturday is a short turn, so the kids are already picked out and stuff like that in the certain cities. But looking in the future, that's where easiest thing is go to legacyflightacademy.org and hit the subscribe button, if you will, there, just to get our updates and emails to see when we're doing these particular events.
I'll be there Saturday too, at one of the locations. I guess since we got a couple of more minutes, I guess we can go ahead and describe to everybody. My understanding is 5 different cities simultaneously live streaming discovery flights for the kids for free. I think that's amazing. You can't beat that.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome event, and as far as we know too, I don't think I've seen anyone else do this anywhere in the country for that matter. So this will be a unique moment, and it's also, this particular weekend is the anniversary of the graduation of the first class of Tuskegee Airmen. So it's kind of all around, it's going to be pretty cool. We should have General McGee on this live stream as well. So it should be a lot of fun and life changing for hopefully a lot of people. So. Cool. Well, I enjoyed this, Tymell. Hopefully our attendees enjoyed it as much as I did. So
thank you
guys for tuning in. Hopefully that we'll see more of you tomorrow, and hopefully we see all of you on Saturday. So from Legacy Flight Academy, Mr. Tymell Williams, thank you all for coming, and we'll catch you guys out there. See ya.
Later.